Okay, just a minute. All right, there we go. Hey
Oh,
there. So, yeah, nice to meet you face to face.
nice to meet you too.
And loving the belts behind you, man. That's the coolest background. I'm glad you're not doing virtual background because I'm loving those belts behind you, man.
Yeah, tried to do virtual backgrounds, didn't really see much, then I just came out because I go off in my own head, like, should I do it? Should I not do it? And I said, just screw it. It's gonna be back there. It's fine.
That's way cooler than some fake beach or something.
Uh, sure. All right.
Well, anyway, great to meet you and great to spend this time.
Great to meet you too, sir. Could you explain to people what a financial advisor is?
Yeah, okay, sure. So the 99% of America has no financial advisor, according to recent survey and studies. And I would also say that the average person doesn't need one. In fact, most people who claim to be financial advisors are really just stock investors in disguise. And I make a distinction between those two. I want my financial advisor to do something different than just pick some stocks for me. Because according to a Morningstar survey, 93% of investors, professional investors, 93% of professional investors underperformed the stock index over a 10-year period. So this means that we'd be better off just having monkeys throwing darts at a board than having a professional investor pick our stocks for us. And yet, we pay these professional investors many times greater dollars than most people expect. Just to give you another statistic, the Department of Labor says that a 1% fee, the average fee is a 1.5% fee. So that's the average, is a 1.5% fee. But if we just have a 1% fee on our stock accounts, brokerage accounts, IRA money, whatever, if we just had a 1% fee, doesn't sound like a lot, right, Gerald? But over a 35-year period, that can eat away 1/3 of our money. A third of our nest egg just vaporizes due to fees.
Mm.
Now, who wins there, right? Who took all the risk? Well, you and I did. Who got paid guaranteed? The stock guy did, or gal. He or she got a guaranteed money payment every year. Even if they lost your money, they were still getting some of that cash off your back. That to me sounds like a scam. I hate to say it that boldly, but it sounds like a scam. If they get paid guaranteed and we have to take all the risk, and yet we're the guy paying, that sounds like a scam. So most people don't need that kind of financial professional in their life. If you're going to pay somebody something, they need to be able to take on the risk, the obligation, the responsibility to work with you to make sure that you're getting something for the fee that you're paying.
Mm.
Right? If I had some car mechanic and I had to pay this guy and he had essentially a guaranteed payment, but he had no obligation or responsibility to fix my car, he would be out of business like that. And yet Wall Street seems to think this is normal. And Americans seem to think that it's normal to just throw our money into the lap of some financial guru and hope and pray that he's not going to run off with it. And we accept all the risk. We put all of our money into 401ks, IRAs, brokerage accounts, crypto, and we think, all right, I'm doing all the adult things. I'm taking steps to being an adult. And it's unfortunate, but once you get into your 50s, 60s, folks find out that we were sold a bill of goods. The average 401k at age 55 is only, are you ready for this? It's less than $100,000. $57,000 is the average 401k balance. $57,000. How long is that going to last us in retirement?
Not long, probably about a couple months because bills and it all depends on your area location. But again, still a couple months.
Yeah. It's unfortunate, but you cannot undo time. So when you're in your 20s and you're like, yeah, I'm going to do the right thing. I'm going to get my 401k. I'm going to be responsible. I'm not going to blow it at the club. You get that 401k and you start putting money into it. you can't, as a 60-year-old, wake up and say, whoops, that was a bad move. Let me try something else. You can't get that time back. And so the fees are out the door. Market volatility can take money from you. We're certainly seeing market volatility this year. And taxes. That's the third and final nail in the coffin that makes me just, I'm sorry I'm giving you a dour start to the conversation here, Gerald, but taxes are unknown. We don't know where taxes are going to go in the future. Most people think that it's a good idea to put money into a 401k or an IRA because it defers our taxes. That word defer sounds so nice. Wow, I'm deferring my taxes. I'm putting money in pre-tax. And many people think that 401ks, IRAs are tax-free, that you avoid paying taxes when you put it into a 401k. Nothing could be further from the truth. What does the word defer mean? Like, define that word. What does the word defer mean? It just means to push it off into the future sometime. And so most people don't realize that they've got a ticking tax time bomb in their retirement accounts. And we don't know how much the government is going to take out of their 401k yet. Why do I say that? Because they literally haven't voted on how much of your 401k they own. Some of that 401k money, you got $1 million in your 401k, good for you. But we don't know if you own 700 grand, 500 grand, 400 grand, $0. We don't know how much is yours because the government hasn't voted in the future yet. They're voting on this year's tax bills and so forth. But when you're 65, we don't know what the tax rates are going to be. And that's when you get taxed on a 401k, is in the future. So who would defer a root canal? It only makes the problem worse, right? It's the same with deferring our taxes. So, okay, I'm off my soapbox. I promise, man, there's some better answers, happier answers, but I had to give you my honest one to that first very poignant question.
No, that's important because, again, for people, I think, as you said, whenever people think of adulting and they are working these jobs, they want to say they're putting money away for 401ks and all these other things, and they just think money's at the end. Because, again, just like when retirement, people constantly work and work and work, and then when they get to retirement, they always hear about retirement so great, but then when they get retired, they're bored. They don't know that that's, I have nothing to do now. They have so much time. Same thing applies with this. You hear about 401ks, you hear about these plans later, and you think, okay, I got money, and now you're hit with taxes, and you think, why are you taking taxes out of my 401k? Haven't you guys been taking taxes out of my money as I was working? What's so you saying that allows people to understand that you probably want to do something else with your money instead of just constantly placing off in a 401k. Now, with that, what are some plans or things that you think that people should know about? Okay, instead of putting in a 401k, even if people still might think put it in a 401k, what are some other places that they could stash their money here and there and probably let it work for them?
Mm-hmm. Well, that's a great way to ask the question, because what does work for them actually mean? And that's going to be a different answer for every person listening. What is it you need your money doing for you? I don't know the answer. No one knows except you. And actually, that's a great place to start. And you can do it. It's totally free. You don't need to pay some, fancy certified financial planner like myself to have that conversation with you. Just grab a legal pad, sit down, and write out, what do I want my money doing for me? You work hard for your money. I assume that you're thinking a lot about it. You spend a lot of hours at your day job probably. So you might as well figure out what your money should be doing to work for you. As much as you're working for money, it should be working for you too. So make that list of the job description for your money. If you're going to hire money, if money was going to be your employee, what kind of work would you want it to do for you? And how do I answer that question? Well, I start by writing out adjectives and verbs. I don't care so much about nouns at this point. What's a noun? A noun would be like a checking account, a savings account, a 401k, an annuity, a real estate deal, cryptocurrency. Let's put all the nouns aside for a minute and just talk about verbs and adjectives. What sort of functions or attributes do I want my money to have? Do I want it to grow in a competitive way? Write that down. Do I want access to the money? Write access to money. Do I want it to be tax-free in the future, like we were just talking about? Write down tax-free in the future. Do I want it to have any red tape or prohibited transactions, like, can't use it for personal stuff or can't use it for business stuff? Write those things down. Do I want it private so that if I ever got sued, God forbid, they couldn't take it away from me? Write that down. Privacy. Continually write down what you want your money doing for you, and then see what comes from it. Let's start there. So what are your thoughts there, Gerald? What would you add to that list if you could just wave a magic wand and put your money wherever you want?
I like since podcast space is still a brand new business, and you start seeing certain podcasts now starting getting sued for things that they've said. I like the idea of putting money away, so just in case something might happen, you can't have that be taken away from you. Um, but everything that you've listed so far seems about the right way for everybody. I think everybody will like for their money just to constantly grow as years and progression on, instead of just have it sit there and just be stagnant.
Yep. Yeah, the list could go on, but the key is just thinking for ourselves. There's a quote, I'm trying to remember who wrote the quote first. It was in the Saturday Evening Post like a long time ago, but he wrote 10% of people think, another 10% of us think that we think, and the rest of us would rather lay down and die than think. And I feel like that's so true with our money. We're just told to get our 401k. We're told to get our credit cards. We're told to get our student loans. We're told to get into crypto. We're told to get the Roth IRA. It's all just sort of like rocks that we're adding to the backpack of our adult life. And we're just throwing this stuff in our backpacks, but we have no clue why we're doing these things. And we don't understand the weight that it's adding to our lives. I've had a lot of folks, there's a study by the Journal of American Medical Association, the JAMA journal, which is one of the most highly regarded medical journals in the world. They recently did a study on something known as a wealth shock. And what they reported in their study was that of those that had a wealth shock, and they defined that as losing an average of $100,000, could be less, could be more, but the average loss was $100,000, could be a house value dropping, could be a divorce, could be a market crash, whatever the reason, they lost an average of a substantial chunk of money. Okay, so that's the idea. Of those that had that experience, they had a 50% greater likelihood of dying early than those who did not have that same wealth shock. So that got the hair on the back of my neck to stand up when I read that, because I realized this money thing has a big part to play in the whole of my life, my physical health, my relationships, my spirituality, my parenting, my legacy, my mission. All right. My blood pressure, for goodness sakes. If I have my money in the wrong places, I could die earlier. Okay. That's a big deal. So I was on a big hunt to find, well, where do I want my money to live? This is going to shock you, but when I was studying to get my CFP, I had to get all this stuff verified. And I went through 450 different financial parking spaces that you can put your money. Again, checking account, 401k, IRA, dynastic trusts, annuities, long-term syndication deals, the whole gamut, man. And it was a lot of fun to learn all that. But only one of the tools really checked all the boxes for me, for my own personal list of what I wanted my money doing for me. And of all things, it was a little known variation of a 200-year-old financial asset called dividend paying whole life insurance. And I have to be honest with you, I almost quit the whole thing when I realized that whole life insurance met all of my personal desires for money. And I realized this is sort of crazy to be saying, but I didn't believe it. Even though I was studying it, I didn't believe it. So I had to dig a little deeper. Because I'd always been taught that whole life insurance is a terrible place to put your money, and you should put it all into the stock market, or you should put it all into real estate. But I couldn't look away. Here's what it does, and I'll be brief, and then I'll hush and get your feedback. Mm-hmm. If it's designed properly, if it's not designed for commissions, which is how most whole life insurance is designed, but if it's designed instead of commissions, if it's designed to grow your wealth, it does three things really well, and a kind of a fourth thing too. So the first is it's life insurance. So it automatically creates a legacy for your family. And that's an income tax-free death benefit, just like term insurance. But unlike term insurance, it doesn't get more expensive as you age. And unlike term insurance, it lasts the entire of your life, so it doesn't ever expire on you. And then third, it can build up equity. Term insurance, you can't, you're just renting it, the death benefit. But when it's whole life insurance, you can build up real wealth, equity in the policy, cash value, stuff you can spend on this side of the grass. So that's the first piece. Second, that cash value is really cool because it grows guaranteed, like every year, even this year, like right now, in this moment, as we're recording this. We just had crypto failures last week with FTX disassembling itself in front of the world stage. We've seen the market unravel somewhere between 20 and 35%, depending on what market we're talking about, with S&P 500 and that NASDAQ. So we've seen some wild volatility in these markets. But my policies that I personally own have hit all-time record highs this year, and they'll do that again, guaranteed, next year, and the next year, and the next year, every single year for the rest of my life. I've had these policies myself for over 11 years. They've been around for over 200, and they've consistently given folks those guaranteed gains every year. So that's the second one, is it grows guaranteed. Third, I have access to that money, and I can use it any way I want to. And there are no taxes due when I get the money out. So it's like a Roth IRA, but it's not a Roth IRA, but it's like one, in that I can get the money out in retirement income tax free if we design it properly. And then the last thing, the one that blows me away, the last thing is that I can use it like a bank. I can borrow against my cash value, and then I can pay for my car or my vacation or my business investment or my real estate. I can access the money and I can pay cash for the big purchase, but my policy is still compounding and growing like I had not touched the money. It grows even on the capital I borrowed as if I hadn't touched a dime of the cash. So if I've got a $50,000 cash value in one of these policies, and let's say I borrow out $40,000 to go invest in, a real estate deal, while that loan is outstanding, I'm still getting the full compound growth on all $50,000. And I've got my 40 grand out there working in the real estate deal at the same time. So this is a way for our money to do two things at once. That's kind of bank on yourself. We call these bank on yourself designed whole life policies.
Okay. So with that analogy, with you taking the 40,000 out of your 55,000 and having it work out for you, what you still left with 15,000, you're still able to get the effect as in everything was still in there, but in reality, 15,000 is still in there. That's what I'm trying to understand.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. We are borrowing against the cash. We didn't actually drain the money out. Let me put it to you this way. If you've got a savings account,
okay,
what do? You save money in that savings account, save. And let's say you've saved up $50,000. That's sweet. Feeling good. Got your 50 bones sitting inside that savings account. And how do you buy something? Well, you have to make a withdrawal from the savings account to go pay cash for the car or whatever else we were going to buy with that money. How much interest do we earn on money we've withdrawn from our bank accounts? I'll give you a clue. It's zero. Once you take the money out of the bank account, you're not earning a penny on that money. It's gone forever. This was the wake-up call of my adult life with regard to money. And that is that you finance everything you buy. You finance everything you buy. Either you finance it with a car dealership or a credit card or student loans, you're financing it with some other bank, or you save up and pay cash for that thing, and thereby you bypass any earned interest that you could have earned on that money had you not bought that thing. So if I had left my 50 grand in my savings account, that 50 would have slowly grown to 60, 70, 80 over my lifetime, right? But because I spent the money, I no longer have 50 earning for me. I now only earn whatever's left on whatever's left in my savings account. Is that concept of, that's the opportunity cost. Does that make sense?
Yes.
But when I borrow against something like this policy, when I borrow against it, I'm simply using the cash value as, the fancy word is collateral. So I'm borrowing against the policy, and I walk into the dealer and I pay cash for the car or the real estate deal or whatever. But my policy is still whole. It's still in there, still growing as if I hadn't touched a dime of the money, because I borrowed from the insurance company, not from my policy itself. So my policy is still compounding on the full 50 grand, and I'm driving my car around, or I'm, getting rent from my real estate deal or whatever I bought with the money. That to me is better than paying cash. It's better than paying cash for big purchases because I still get my money growing for me, versus with a savings account, it's either or. With these policies, it's both and.
Okay. It's starting to make some headway there. Again, not much of a finance person, so everything's slowly getting there, but I'm grasping it slowly as everything is being mentioned. And once I play this audio back again, I'll probably grasp it more and more. That's a lot. A lot of people don't know about finance. I'm just gonna be blunt. I don't think a lot of people do. I think a lot of people don't like to ask questions because we're supposed to know these things once you become a quote unquote adult. And just like, okay, there's a wealth of knowledge when you hit 25. Oh, now I know. I know nothing. And I think a lot of people are afraid to say that. So, what other things should people know about finance that people might not know when it comes down to either banking or the stocks or even crypto? What are certain things that people should know that we don't know, or we pretend to know that we really don't?
Well, you're so right, man. You're not alone. And I certainly didn't grow up knowing anything about money. I know we're not taught this in school, that's for sure. And not that we'd want our teachers really teaching us about money. I mean, they're not exactly decamillionaires themselves. So, you want to be very careful who you're being taught, who's teaching you about money. That's maybe a first lesson right there. But it's okay to admit that, hey, we just don't know. I was so ignorant. I stumbled into $120,000 of student loan debt in the midst of the Great Recession in 2008. And I had no idea how money worked. And I was racking up credit card debt, and I had no plans to pay it off. So, you can start anywhere, but you can always learn a little bit every day. So implementing the discipline of education and self-improvement is going to be crucial. More important than learning how to use a bank on your self-designed whole life insurance policy, or investing in the right crypto or stock or whatever. More important than any of that is to realize that you are your own greatest investment. You've got better rate of return on yourself than really anything else for two reasons. One, you have more control over this asset, yourself, your body, your mind. And two, you literally have a mathematical advantage over any other asset. Think about it. I don't know how old you are, Gerald. Let's say again.
26.
26? Man, so I don't know how much you make. I'm just going to give a random number. Let's say 100 grand. I don't know. Let's just say you're making 100 grand, 100 big ones, and you're 26. And let's say you work till you're 66. That means you've got another, whatever, what is that? 44 or 40 years, right? 40 years times $100,000 is $4 million. And that's assuming no pay raises. You never got a pay raise in all of 40 years. That's $4 million. I bet you and most of us, myself included, don't think to put our earned income capacity on our net worth statement. But it's most of our biggest asset is our ability to earn an income. So $4 million is it's an inherent asset on your balance sheet. But most of us ignore that big asset. Now, what if we were able to get a 3% raise, and then even a 5% raise or 7% raise every year for 40 years? Can you imagine the kind of compounding that would happen? And by the way, I didn't assume any savings of that money. You just spent it in my hypothetical example. But what if you could pack that money away and get some kind of yield on that? So not only are you getting a raise at the day job, but you're also getting a rate of return on your investments. This is how folks escape the rat race and become financially free. It's by investing in themselves. How do you get that pay raise to go from 3% to 7%? You get better educated. You get certifications. You prove how valuable you can be to your boss, or if you're self-employed, you figure out a way to improve yourself for the marketplace and for your customers. The more you know, and more importantly, the more you apply your knowledge, the more you apply that knowledge, the more you can increase that best investment in your portfolio, which is the 4-pound knot of neurons in between our ears.
That's that's true. Even that's true because even I took a college course in the summer, and he had me make a 5 year plan. And that way of with the podcast, he asks about what do I want out of it, and I didn't never really think about 5 years like going down. I'm always a day by day type uh person, and it made me think, okay, in 5 years, what do I want this thing to be? And once I got those 5 years idea generalized, I was able to actually knock one out of the way early. Matter of fact, just last month, because um I have about every country listening to this, at least one person or sporadically from month to month. And I just can never ever hit the the Mexico country. I can never ever hit it. And then sometime last month, I was actually able to hit it. And I was like, okay, that's great, because now I can actually say I've had everybody, at least from North America, listen to the pod. So now I have that out of the way. Okay, so now I'm trying to think of out of that 5 years. Okay, now that's done, and I got that out of my headspace. What next do I want to accomplish next? So with you saying that to apply what you learn and make yourself either visible or more, I'm trying to look for the better word for it, self-sufficient for your employee or your boss. I think people don't realize that because again, we all are in the rat race of every day. Just do your job, whatever, and just get out. That we forget to. Maybe I should apply that here and see if that would help me out and see if somebody will take notice of it. So I will now think about that more.
Yeah, you think about the recent push in the marketplace doing what's called quiet quitting. We think we're really sneaking by the boss and just doing as little as we possibly can by quiet quitting. You're really shooting yourself in the foot. You're demoting yourself. You're taking that $4 million in my hypothetical there, and you're bringing it down to 3 million. Like, what is the cost of just barely scraping by, just doing what you have to not get fired? That is an unbelievably short-sighted way to live, in my opinion. And I agree with you, man. There's a great quote by Gloria Steinem. She says, "Rich people plan for 4 generations, but poor people plan for Saturday night." So as you think about yourself as your greatest investment, and you are mathematically, we can prove that better than any crypto, better than any other stock investment. If you're your own greatest investment, what are you doing to prepare yourself, not just for this Saturday night, not even, I love the 5-year question. I love that. And then beyond 5 years, how could we even imagine the world being changed over a 10-year period? What about 5 generations from now? There's businesses in Japan that have been around for family-owned businesses that have been around for over 1,000 years. That just blows my mind, right? So how do you design a business plan that lasts 1,000 years? Could you even do that? Could I even do that? So anyway, thinking like a banker helps me think long range, because I realize that banks have been in the business of making profits for thousands of years. There's literally a book by David Graeber called Debt the First 5,000 Years. And that's, to me, telling me that banking is the business that we all need to be in. In fact, we already are, even if we don't realize it, which is why I think this whole life insurance contract fits so well with our overall financial goals, whatever they might be. You know, whether you're just needing to buy a couple cars over your lifetime, or invest in some real estate, or invest in your business. If you've got the banking function, I know you're into wrestling. You ever take like your opponent's weight, he's coming at you, fast, and you're able to take that weight, leverage it against him, throw him on the mat, and pin him down. I'm a total novice when it comes to wrestling, so forgive me, but yeah, but you take that leverage and you can use it against them. What if you could do the same with banking? What if you could take the problem of credit card debt, student loan debt, mortgages, all the other car loans? Boy, those are the scourge of the middle class right there. And you could flip that upside down and become your own source of financing. What if you could be your own banker? What would that do? How might that improve our financial situation? How might that add some control to our finances? We could set our own repayment terms to ourselves. What if we could pay ourselves the interest that we're currently shoveling out to, the greedy banksters? What if we could control the whole banking process and take back that control from the banks that currently have it over our heads, the overlords of our financial universe? I just feel like how many marriages would be saved, how many, businesses would be saved, how many people, literally lives would be saved if we didn't have this 4-letter word of debt hanging around our neck. But we actually didn't just get rid of the debt. We actually became the creditor ourselves. We became the banker ourselves.
That would be great. I think a lot of people would be free in a mindset way instead of always being dragged down and always worrying about, okay, I got to get the money for this or that. And I think everybody would be better off. I see there are times about the wrap up because I've been looking at the time to make sure that everything is all straight away. So I just got 2 questions, and this is kind of like unrelated to finance now for these 2 because these are something I like to ask. If you had 5 people dead or alive to invite for dinner, who would you have dinner with and why?
5.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. All right. Let me see here. Give me a second and I'll put my thoughts together on this one. All right. Thomas Edison. I think he'd be a great one to just get his mind and understand his creative spirit. Could I invite fictional people?
Sure, it's your dinner, man.
All right. How about Willy Wonka? I think he has a quote. He says, "A little nonsense now and then is relished by the wisest men." So I think thinking playfully and creatively can help you break out of like the rat race. So he'd be another one. No, that's number 2. Let's see. It'd be so cool to sit down with John F. Kennedy. I think he'd be just an unbelievable character to learn more from. So that's number 3. How about Jim Rohn? He's one of my favorites for inspirational quotes. He says, "Make rest a necessity, not an objective." And he's got about 10,000 other quotes that I could probably read off to you. But I think Jim Rohn's heart and his business mind, it's one of my favorites. So that's 4. And how about Dan Sullivan? Dan Sullivan's another great guy. He's a business entrepreneur. He's in his 70s. He has some great quotes, including always make your future bigger than your past. He's still saying that now, and he's 76 years old or whatever. Always make your future bigger than your past. He also says the skills that got you out of Egypt will not get you into the promised land. Whoa, that'll rock my world if I think about that too long. So those 5 guys.
That's a pretty powerful phrase. Whether people know that or not, those are big. And what type of message do you want to leave this interview, this audience with? What do you want to leave them with for them to at least take in, if they didn't take nothing else away from this? What's something that you want to leave them with?
You can wake up from the matrix of banking. You are in the banking world, whether you realize it or not. It's like the water that we swim in as little fishies, and they can control the temperature of our aquarium and cook us or freeze us. They can feed us or not feed us, but you can jump out of their aquarium and swim in your own great blue ocean. You can become your own source of financing if you know how to do it. And it doesn't take a PhD in finance. You just have to think different and be willing to try something that maybe has lasted for hundreds of years, thousands of years, but we've just never been taught it by, the likes of ordinary, oh so average financial advisors.
Okay. One more thing. If you want to plug away at your social media sites, here's the time to do it now to let people know where they can find you and probably get you as a financial advisor too.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I'd be happy to have a brainstorming conversation, 15 minutes, see if we'd be a good fit. You can find me at kickstartwithmark.com. That's kickstartwithmark.com. Have a 15-minute chat over the phone, get to know you a bit, answer any questions you have, help you in any way in your financial journey to think differently about your money, your economy, or your future. That's kickstartwithmark.com.
Okay. And this has been my interview with Mr. Mark Willis. I thank him for being on the show. And hopefully I'll be able to talk to you sometime down the line. and we'll be able to continue on with this financial talk. And more or less, I'll probably have more better questions to ask you because again, I'm still learning. So this is just beginner questions.
Hey man, it's all good. I'm so glad to see you're learning and never stop.